Hello and welcome to the Week 16 edition of This Week at the Park. I am your host, Brian Tinsman from Redskins.com. And big news coming out of yesterday's press conferences that veteran linebacker London Fletcher is likely, virtually certain to call it a career at the end of this season. I'd like to introduce our guest this week. We have old regular Rich Tandler here from CSNWashington.com.
Thank you for the old comment.
Of course. Not emphasis on old there, just regular.
Okay.
And we have a very special guest with us this week, former Redskins linebacker and defensive end, Chris Wilson. How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
Doing all right. Before we jump into the football, before we get into Fletcher and Dallas week and all those other things that are coming up this week, talk a little bit about yourself. What have you been up to?
Just wearing a lot of different hats. Played a little CFL ball. Like you guys know that I was there before I came to the NFL. So I finished their season up, and just been around doing things like this, and still playing a little bass guitar. Just doing a lot of different things. Different business things. So
I think we might hear a little bit about that bass guitar a little bit later.
We might.
We might have a taste of that.
We might.
Quite proud of it.
Yeah, exactly. You still in the area though, Chris?
Still in the area. Got my feet rooted in the ground a little bit. My stake in the ground. Coaching a little high school basketball at Virginia Academy. We got a game tonight, undefeated. So just trying to help the community out and get a culture going that we can be proud of.
Now, I also trust that you've been following along with the Redskins this season.
I have. I mean, how can you not?
Yeah.
I'm an alum, so.
All right. Well, let's get right into it with Fletcher. He talked to the media yesterday, called his own press conference, and called his own shot. Let's hear what he had to say.
Major announcement. No, I just wanted to look at this opportunity to let the fans know that this will more than likely be my last season in the National Football League. With this being the final home game, wanted to definitely get an opportunity to say goodbye to the burgundy and gold faithful. I've been the fans at FedEx have been so graceful to me since my 7 years here in Washington. I'm about 99% certain that this will be my last season in the National Football League, and I got to leave at least 1% just in case I change my mind. But it's really just about having another conversation with my wife. But thought with this being final home game, this being Dallas Cowboy week, opportunity to go out on a bang, get the fans riled up, say thank you to them, and beat the Cowboys. What better way to end it?
What better way to end it, indeed. Yesterday was a day of percentages. We never heard 100%, but we heard he was 90% before the season that this was going to be it. This is the final year of his contract. And we heard that extra 9% kind of came in this season for both personal and professional reasons, a balance of which he talked about yesterday. Rich, what was your reaction to the news?
It was not really surprising. I felt, we talked to him in the locker room a few weeks ago, and about this. Now, he said he was going to wait until the off season to decide, but there was just something about the tone in his voice and how I asked him about it's like a lot of players don't lose their will to play. They don't lose their will to play on Sundays, show up on Sundays. They lose their will to work in February, March. The grinding physical, that entails. So I think he kind of was losing his appetite for that. That's what the feeling I got was it would not be surprising if he cashed him in.
Now, one of the things that he did emphasize is that he has 3 young kids and a wife who live in Charlotte, which is not an easy drive from here, or a flight. I guess it's a short flight. But Chris, you were Fletcher's teammate for 5 of his 7 seasons here. Talk a little bit about we hear so much about his leadership style and so much about how much of a role model he is within the locker room. But what are some? Give us a personal anecdote there. What are the qualities that he really brings to a roster?
The whole 9 yards. A lot of things. He has obviously the experience of winning Super Bowls, played in another Super Bowl. The coaches even respect him to a point where, this is the play, this is the defense, but if Fletch tells you to do something, just do what he said, and then we can talk about it later. So, Fletch was there my rookie year. Everybody's rookie year is special. And, sometimes I kind of talk about my very first, game, with the first unit, my first time in with the first unit. You got guys like London Fletcher, Sean Springs, who you grew up playing with on John Madden football. but it's just a special thing. And you know, I was fortunate to be able to take nuggets away from him, from all aspects, the way he plays the game, the way he prepares to play the game, mentally, as well as physically, as well as his tenacity, his mentality. So it really teaches you a lot. I don't know if his mentality would necessarily last in the NFL because of the vicious hittings and the fines and the penalties, penalties and stuff like that. But you know, definitely one of the greatest.
Absolutely. You know, Rich, talking about the roster as it currently sits, does this become an immediate need for them in the offseason, or is there somebody on this roster who will be able to fill either the leadership void, certainly, or the play void at that inside linebacker position?
The leadership void, I think leadership, a lot of times, if there's a vacuum there, somebody steps up into it. Now, whether they'll do it as well as London did it, watching him before games, being on the field sometimes, getting in those huddles, especially with just his group of linebackers, was really something special. So that's to be determined. The position he talked, I think if he'd gone on further in that opening statement, or maybe it was the first question, talked about Perry Riley, and one of the reasons he's comfortable leaving is that he feels he's gotten Perry to the to a good place, a good point. Now, Perry Riley is also a free agent at the end of this year. I would think he would be a pretty high priority for the team to sign. Coaching staff questions. Do they stay with a 3-4? No matter who's here. Obviously, all those things come into play when looking at replacing Fletcher. So before that question gets answered, a lot of other questions have to be answered.
There's kind of been a big three at that particular position through the late 90s and mostly through the 2000s at this point. We've seen the retirement of Brian Urlacher. We've seen the retirement of Ray Lewis. And London Fletcher seems to be that guy who always had the same stats, if not better, and really never got the respect that he deserved. When you're looking 5 years down the road from now, are we going to be talking about London Fletcher as a Hall of Famer? What do you think?
I think absolutely. I mean, his resume is just undeniable. He's a Hall of Famer. You look at his stats and the way he contributes to a team, he's a Hall of Famer, definitely.
I don't think in 5 years, I don't think he's that kind of player. Just, again, glitz, glam. I'm just looking at it from the Hall of Fame voters' perspective.
Okay.
Just looking at it from theirs, he doesn't, I don't think he gets that first ballot nod or anything like that. He was never, again, for whatever reason, maybe because of the presence of Urlacher and Lewis and them getting more media attention, never a first-team All-Pro, which is one thing that Hall of Fame voters look at. Yes, he had the Super Bowls early in his career. Later in his career, did he? I think that'll work against him. But I think eventually, it might take that old-timers committee somewhere, 15, 20 years down the road to recognize what he's done because, I think eventually the cream floats to the top. And is he a guy of that caliber? Yes. Will that instantly be recognized? I'm just looking at the way the process goes. I'm kind of skeptical.
See, we'll have a lot more time to debate this, but you're talking about a sport which, over the span of his career, has become a lot, I don't want to say less physical, but the physics of it have changed in terms of the blows that you're actually taking to your head and other important organs. So for someone like him, we may, at some point, long into the future, see somebody who can approach 255. But do you ever think that there will be another linebacker that can get to 256 consecutive games played?
No, I think that's a Cal Ripken-like streak. But then again, nobody ever thought Lou Gehrig would be beaten. But the physical nature of the game makes it difficult to go. Basically parts of 3 decades without missing a game. I mean, salute definitely.
I think that just says a lot about who he is, though. Not so much about. A lot of guys are fortunate to play this game and not a lot of guys, but some guys are fortunate to play this game and not get injured. But, you don't know half of the things that he went through as far as battling injuries.
Sure.
I know it because I'm playing with him and watching him go out there and still, he's one of those older school mentality. I mean, he's just, hard, Yeah. And it's you don't really notice that, but I think that has a lot to do with his streak and how much he cares about the game, and he's either all in or, he's 99% sure he's going to be all out. So.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Shanahan yesterday related a story. He said it a few weeks ago, months ago, something. He said he saw his ankle going away where he didn't think he'd be able to. He said he's out 3-4 weeks. God, what are we going to do? And then Wednesday, London's there on the practice field, ready to go. It's just you almost have to have a body that's superhuman, but a lot of it's up there.
Yeah, with him.
Yep.
All right, coming up in segment number 2, we got a little bit more about Fletcher, and we got a lot more about Dallas week. Stay tuned. All right, segment number 2 for this week at the park. Remember, Redskins fans, to get ready for the game, buy and sell Redskins tickets at NFL.com/ticket exchange, the only official ticket exchange of the NFL, powered by Ticketmaster. Now, what can be forgotten in the hubbub of yesterday's announcement is that this is one of the most exciting weeks of the year for Redskins fans. I know that this year's a little bit different, bringing a 3-11 record into Dallas week. But if the old statement holds true that if they lose every other game but they manage to beat the Dallas Cowboys twice, well, they certainly have an opportunity to make good on half of that this week. Does this game bring the same? Certainly it's not going to be as exciting as last year's game, Week 17 here, but is this a motivating factor for players, do you think, at this point in the season?
Absolutely. First of all, win or lose, we always playing for our jobs. So guys are going to go out there and play hard for that factor. And, when you're not going to play in the playoffs, the next biggest thing is those division rivalries to really get on that big stage and get a chance to show what you can do when the pressure's on the line.
Yeah, I think the chance to severely damage, you couldn't by themselves eliminate Dallas from the playoffs, but you could severely damage their chances and maybe throw them into a little bit more turmoil than they already are. As far as Jones, Jason Garrett.
Limp into the playoffs a little bit. That's always fun.
Yeah, yep. I think that is providing some motivation for players, but I think Mike Shanahan said it best yesterday. If that got him pumped up, he said, "No, not really playing for the playoffs is what gets me pumped up." So, I think it adds something, especially for the fans. It will certainly add some spice to it. The fact that it's a big game for Dallas, even if it's not so much for the Redskins.
Now you talk about some of the hallmarks of this season versus last season. Last season, long winning streak. This season, long losing streak. Last year, a lot of success against the division, and this year they're riding an 0-4 record in the division into this game. Is there something that they can take away from the first game against Dallas, or is this kind of one of those inherent rivalries? They know how to beat these guys. They just need to execute.
Well, how about not let the guy beat you on special teams like he did?
And we will get into that.
That's an entirely different game if Dwayne Harris doesn't get those 2 long returns. So, I think special teams have gotten in. Like I said, we're going to get into it. I think they've improved since then. Mm-hmm. But you got to stay on top of it. I think there's and then Dallas's defense, of course, has been a trophy. You can talk about Tony Romo's interceptions all you want. If the Cowboys don't let them score first 5 possessions of the second half, the Packers
worst defense in the NFL.
Yes, the Packers probably don't win that game. So, I think there are things the Redskins can exploit against Dallas.
All right. Well, looking forward to the matchup, also with the announcement of London Fletcher. Mike Shanahan talked to the media yesterday about what it would mean to give Fletcher a win with his last home game at FedEx Field. See what he had to say.
What was your reaction when London told you that he wanted to retire, and what do you think his legacy to this organization and to football is going to be?
Well, like I've said before, I've never been around a guy quite like London. The way he prepares for every game is like he's preparing for a Super Bowl. His leadership is unquestioned. When I came in here, everybody had the utmost respect for him, both on and off the football field. And so to have a guy like that in your organization makes it so much easier for a coach because, the young guys learn the right way to do things right from the start. And so, he's been very, very special to this organization. He's experienced a lot with different people, different players, different coaches. So it's going to be tough to lose a guy like that, but hopefully he can end it on the right note with a good win against Dallas.
Now, Chris, you've actually been a part of some really thrilling games against Dallas over the span of your career here in Washington. Just in the last decade, you've probably been there for all of the best ones. What are some of your favorite memories of this particular game, and what does this rivalry mean to the players?
It means a lot to the players, and it means a lot to the fans. Your social media buzz goes through the roof when you play good against the Cowboys. I remember my rookie season, it was like a playoff game. If we win, we're in. If we lose, we're out. And that's one of my fondest memories because as a rookie, you always want to earn the respect of your peers and your coaches. And I got 2 sacks against the Cowboys. And I remember Chris Samuels was just, kind of like my hype man. I'm like, again, some of the surrealness of, you got an all-pro guy like Chris Samuels, and now he's in here blowing my head up to everybody else, talking about how great I am and stuff like that. But it's always important to the players. It's like playing against that rivalry in high school. You know them, they know you, and kind of like the question you just asked. It's a little bit of both. It's hard to beat a team twice for anybody, but at the same time, we know them, they know us. Who's going to be able to perform? Who's going to be able to execute under pressure? Will the very, very minor wrinkles that go into this game affect anything? And it's just going to come down to who's better on that day.
We will see. Another guy that we want to talk about on defense, Brian Arakpo, actually going to be on the cover of this Game Day magazine. But he has 7 sacks in his last 6 games and has really been riding a hot streak this season that we haven't seen yet in his career. It's funny that at this point in his career, still has no sacks versus Dallas. How important is he going to be in this game plan to get Tony Romo off balance and to really make an impact on defense, Rich?
I tell you, it's Tony Romo's a slippery guy. He's not. Yeah, he's not somebody you're going to get 3-4 sacks against. You're lucky if you get 1 or 2, but you can flush him out of the pocket. You can make him move around, and that's when he'll make his mistakes. So. Is it important for Arakpo to get a sack against Dallas? I don't know. I would rather see him get 3, 4, 5, 6 pressures on Romo, make him move around, make him make a mistake.
Now we've seen Tony Romo make his fair share of mistakes in December, and a lot of that is put on him by the local media, by the national media. Right. Certainly, Redskins fans don't mind.
I enjoy it.
Rich piles it on. You should just read his stuff. But what is the key to beating Romo? You would know.
You just have to be tenacious. Kind of piggyback off the last question, I think it's very important for Brian Arakpo to get a sack. For him, first of all, like when you make plays like that, you all of a sudden not tired. And in the back of his head, he knows he hasn't had a sack against Dallas, and he knows that's the most important game for a Redskin. And that's going to elevate his game. That's going to get him excited, which is going to get everybody around him more excited. And, as a D-line, when you put pressures and things on Romo, well, just the fact that if you just think about it, how many years he has escaped and made plays. You just got to let it all hang out. You got nothing to lose. And I think when they play loose and just let it all hang out, we get a ton of ability. So just let it hang out. Show I used to say, shoot every bullet in your clip. Don't leave any in the gun still. And I think they have a great day.
Now you talk about another big matchup on the field, always Dez Bryant versus D. Hall. What have you seen of this matchup this year? I mean, they both guys come in with having pretty good seasons so far. Who do you think wins the day?
I'm going to go D'Angelo Hall. Last 2 times they played, he's done. He's held them down pretty well. He makes a play here and there, and then even going back to the game before the last 2, Thanksgiving, I think Dez put up some good numbers after the outcome of the game and pretty well been decided. So, I like D Hall in that one, but Bryant, man, he is just that catch he made in the back of the end zone against the Packers. I'm like, okay, replay, show me how he kept his feet in, and somehow he kept those feet in. He's just an amazing player. He could be, and I'm not buying into the hype machine, but he could be the best wide receiver in the game today.
Bold statement there. Coming up in segment number 3, we'll be talking about special teams with a special teams master. Also previewing the rest of the Dallas matchup. Stay tuned. Segment number 3 of This Week at the Park, talking special teams. Of course, that made a huge impact in that Dallas game, and that was sort of where you started to see things unravel in coverage this year. Chris, you were a big special teams guy when you played for the Redskins. A lot of your bread and butter, especially last season. Looking at the struggles that the team has had in coverage this year, what are some of the things that basically a good coverage team allows you to do both on offense and defense?
Well, I brought into the system of special teams and believed in it. And people talk it a lot of times, all 3 emphasis of the game, offense, defense, and special teams. So special teams comes into play because, as we know, football is the biggest team sport, period. There's no sport that you depend more on every member of the team than football. So you talk about special teams, good coverage allows your defense to pin their ears back and play loose, as we talked about earlier. To beat the Cowboys, they had to just relax. They know them. Play loose. You have a team that's pinned in their own end zone. We have a lot of leeway, so we can take more risk. Now that read that you were waiting on, you're going to be more aggressive in shooting it when you have a lot more field to cover than a team that's starting on their 40 or your 40. And it's like, okay, no mistakes. Let's just play safe. Just like the return team, instead of your quarterback, you think about RG3's rookie year, the field position that he had. And, these are things that don't necessarily go on NFL Network or SportsCenter, but, we talked about him all the time. We're going to take care of him. He's a rookie. He's a great talent, but we have to take care of him and do our job and make sure he looks good. And we were serious about that. So, we didn't want him starting to drive inside the 5 or 10, the 15 even. We had to get him out there to the 20, 25, 30-yard line at least, so to help take the pressure off him and allow him to play relaxed and loose, and now he can take risk and do all that RG3 stuff that we've grown to love and to see him do.
Now, Rich, since they had so much of a problem against Dallas early in the season, they've added guys that are specifically special teams oriented. They've added Josh Bellamy, they've added Josh Hull, they've added Trenton Robinson. All these guys have really made an impact, and you mentioned that they're starting to come around. We saw a pretty good week last week after kind of a disaster against Kansas City the week before. Can they carry that momentum through into this game?
They can, but they got to avoid that killer mistake. And it just seems it comes from somewhere. Every game since you said back to the Dallas game, back to the Oakland game where they had the block punt and they they allowed the fake punt for a first down. Then it was Dallas. Then it was Devin Hester. You know, you can go down the line. It's always been something in each game. And kind of when I'm watching special teams, the first thing I want them to do is no harm. You know, you want to make good plays for you, but first thing you don't want them to mess up. And for some reason that happens every single game. So before I can say, hey, they've tightened this up. Hey, this is the special teams. Yes, they got it together. They got to avoid the big mistake.
I think they just need to understand what the mistakes are. I know as a player, the hardest thing to do is not know what necessarily happened, because then you tend to do somebody else's job when now you're doing somebody else's job and the mistake is your job where you should have been. You don't want to be too safe, again, on special teams, but you just want to know where everybody's at, understand the concept of the scheme, and be able to be aggressive. So if you be too safe against a Devin Hester, you can't get those guys any room.
Now, we are officially 4 minutes left in this show.
Okay.
And we are just now talking about offense. Kirk Cousins got his first start last week of the season, got his first extended look really all year.
Michigan State.
There you go. So you put it, Michigan guy right here. Put up some big numbers. Unfortunately, made a few critical errors in a day of 7 turnovers. What did you see that you liked in his performance, Rich, against Atlanta, and what does he really need to improve on going against Dallas?
I liked how fast he got rid of the ball. I mean, I think you look at the amount of sacks as Robert has taken, and Mike Shanahan consistently says sacks are not necessarily the offensive line. Like we saw a lot of times where he had 4+ seconds to throw, wouldn't get rid of the ball. I think Kirk is good at going back, getting rid of the ball. He showed a little bit more, some rollout action, a little bit more on the move. When Griffin would start to move, he was usually taken off to run. So, and the moment, it wasn't a huge moment. It's 3 and 10 teams meeting, but the moment, like in Cleveland last year when that was an important game, the moment wasn't too big for him by any stretch of the imagination. And so, it was good. Give him a solid B- with the minus coming from the turnovers.
Sure. Now, Chris, you're talking as a defender, when you see a well-executed play-action play, and they had 2 50-yard plays last week through the air, that were both executed off of play-action. When you have a serious threat in a guy like Alfred Morris running the football, and you have the ability to chuck the ball downfield, what does that do to a defense to push them back off the line?
Well, it just makes you play honest, and you don't want to play honest on defense. You want to have an edge. You want to know, okay, they're not running the ball well. I'm going to be more pass rush, or they're not really throwing the ball a lot. We're going to be more to stop the run. So when you're honest, it doesn't give you that extra step, that extra half a second to make plays. Now,
the atmosphere has changed in here a little bit at the moment. We're actually hearing some of your music.
Yeah, some of the sounds of my band, 25 and older. That's me on the bass guitar, my man Rob on the keys, just jamming a little bit.
25 and older. Glad I'm part of your target audience there, Chris.
Yeah, because if you listen to
only just though, Rich.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to really take a liking to live music and that certain type of swag. The old go-go. I know we in DC, the old go-go feel. At the great Chuck Brown, and you got your Bootsy Collins, and guys that like stuff like that.
See, now Rich loves the jam. You should hear him.
Yeah.
What he has to offer. Rich, what is your key matchup of this game? What is one matchup that they have to win?
I think they have to. I think Pierre Garçon, the Dallas secondary is pretty well beaten up. Morris Claiborne is out. Sean Lee probably is out. They've been dealing with injuries all season, and they're as bad right now as they've been. I think they have to. Pierre Garçon, he's the guy, especially with Jordan Reed more than likely out. He's the guy that Cousins has to find. So Pierre Garçon has a big day, 6-7 cat like he had against Atlanta. I think the Redskins will have a shot.
All right, Chris, we've gone with bold predictions from most of our analysts each week. Give us one thing that you think is a bold prediction that will come true, and the Redskins will push the Redskins in the right direction.
D'Angelo Hall is going to score a touchdown.
All right, that would be number 4 this season.
Yes.
There we go.
I've been waiting for that.
You heard it here first. For Rich, for Chris, I'm Brian Tinsman. This has been This Week at the Park. Remember, on Monday morning, stay tuned right here on Redskins.com for Monday Morning Redskins Roundup. Take care.